Hello, web programming students. Welcome to week 8. Let's talk about HTML tables. So why should we use a table? Well, it's the best way to present data in an orderly fashion, specifically data that is best presented in a tabular form like schedules or restaurant menus. It's more elegant than just making tiny little divs. So how to make a table? We'll start with a table tag, which makes sense, right? This is what's called semantic HTML when it says what it means. So a table, you will understand what that means. The next thing we need is a row. The table has at least one row, and we'll use a TR tag for that. So that's what's here. And so every row in your table will have a TR tag. So we have an opening tag and a closing tag, and all the stuff will go inside that row. Each row has data in it, of course, and we use a TD tag, T table data, tag for each table cell. So every cell in each of your tables will have a TD to go with each piece of data. For every cell, we need one set of TD tags, so it could get quite labor intensive if you have a lot of data. Every little piece gets a TD tag, and so you'll be doing a lot of copying and pasting in your table writing life if you have to make HTML tables from scratch. You're gonna have table headers using the TH tag. So these could be like the bold print headings of your columns for each of the columns of your table. So you should have one TH tag for each column in your table. And this example here has 6 TH tags for each 6 columns of our code demo. So you'll see that coming up. TH tags must be direct children of TR tags. So the next thing after a TR tag has to be either a TH or a TD. So the same thing goes for TDs. They must be direct children of TR tags. So if you have a TR tag, the next tag should be a TD or a TH. And finally, a caption will make a title for the table. Now, there are more HTML tags. We're not going to go through them all. I'll give you a link that lists them all, but we're going to go through the major ones when we do our code demo. And there'll be different ways to style them. We won't do every single one, but there are ways to make all the different kinds of table layouts that you could possibly need. So your code demo will look like this. We have 6 columns and 11 rows, and so we'll have 66 TD tags, 66 TD tags, and 6 TH tags. That's the count. So in Atom, I gave you the head tag here, and I started some of the CSS. We'll go through the style that you need to make the example. So first, we'll need a table tag, of course. And so all of our stuff will go inside this table. So the first thing we can do is caption. That'll be the caption, the title of our table. And then the next thing we'll need is our first row. So here's our first row. Now our example, which I'll pull up here. Our example has a caption. This is the caption. And then this row here has our TH tags in it. The next 11 rows will have TDs in them. So caption, TR, and these TRs have 6 THs. And then these next 11 rows will be rows of TDs. So we can start typing in our headings. And so the first heading is rank, and you can either have them on the same line or like so. It doesn't matter. So let's just do this for now, so it's kind of easier and more compact. So what I'm going to make is a table of my ranking of the 11 major Star Wars films. And I'll add some extra information here so we have a long or a wide table, and so I can show you how to make a responsive table. So I also want to have the director information and the year it was released. And just to give us some extra data so I can show you a responsive table, we'll do the lifetime gross information in millions of bucks. And opening weekend take in million of bucks. So maybe this is inspiration for your movie website. So that's our first bit of code. We have a row and we have some table headings. Let's try this in our browser. So here's our first caption here, and our first row doesn't look like much. We'll style it up a little bit. So then we start making more rows here. So we have to code for each individual row, and then we need a TD for each piece of information. So here's the next one. Feel free to rank your own Star Wars movies. So my favorite one, or my number one, is Empire Strikes Back. Whoops, this is TD. That director was Irvin Kershner. I'll just abbreviate. The year was 1980. The opening, or the lifetime gross, was $209 million. I had to look that up. I didn't actually know that off the top of my head. And the opening weekend was $4.9 million, which seems crazy, but that was 40 years ago. And of course, we need to finish this off. Whoops. So our closing TR tag goes there. Let's check in. 3, 2, 1, refresh. So we have our first row. Doesn't look like much yet, but we'll put some style to this. Let's do another one. Next favorite one, New Hope. Whoops. TR, TD. New Hope. Directed by George Lucas, of course. The year was 1977. Lifetime gross was 207 million from that particular cinema run. And the opening weekend was an amazing $1.5 million, at least in 1977 money. Whoops, can't type. And here's my TR. Let's check in on our browser. 3, 2, 1, refresh. And now we've got 2 rows of this. Just to remind you what it will look like at the end. We'll get this styled up like this in a moment. Let's add one more.
Okay. Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One. The year was 2016. Lifetime gross was $532 million. And the opening weekend was $155 million. And of course, our closing key card tag.
3, 2, 1, refresh. So here's our first 3 rows, including plus our header row here. Now let's do a little bit of style here. So our style sheet is in a folder called style, and the name of the file is demo style. That's here. We've got some style to start with. So we can start to turn this into this. So the first thing we can do is style the table itself. So I had a width of 80% on it. And let's start with that. 3, 2, 1, refresh. So here's my table. I went from 100%, the entire width of the screen, to 80%. So that's got it a little bit closer. One thing we can do is center our table using margin 0 auto, and we can do that because we have a width on this table. So now this knows how to center it. 3, 2, 1, refresh, and now it's an 80% width table that's centered. So that's good. We can apply style to these individual HTML tags like TR and TH and TD. I want my header, my headings to be red. So this is color red. 3, 2, 1, refresh, and now they're red. And so it's a little bit easier to see them. You can see here, these are left justified. And so I can, this is really left justified. I can use text align to at least center them. Text align center. 3, 2, 1, refresh, and whoops. That didn't go. So we'll have to do some other things. Oh, that doesn't go here. Oh, that goes here. So those are centered. This is the TH that got centered. If we want our data, our cells to be text align center, we have to apply it to TD. So that's why it didn't work there. But now, if we save this, 3, 2, 1, refresh, and now TDs are now centered on our columns. So these are a little big. We can fix this by applying some style to those. So I could add a class to those last THs, or I can use a little bit of math to have the browser do the calculation for me. So to do that, I'm going to go down here, and what I want to do is make these widths 20% and these 20%, because right now they're really big. I don't need them to be that big. So I'm going to shrink them down a little bit. And so I want my TD, and we can start to use nth child, and we can put a number in the parentheses here. And so when we count our nth child, this is nth child 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So nth child 5. So the nth child TD is 5. And then we can make this with 20%, whoops, 20%. So if I save this, refresh, 3, 2, 1, refresh. Now that shrunk a bit here. So that's easier to see. It's not spread out like so much like this. So we do the same thing for our TD. So I wrote a comma, TD, nth child 6. It'll also be width of 20%. So if I save this, go back to here, it's harder to see. You'll see it more on the TH. I'll do that next. 3, 2, 1, refresh. And now our TDs are 20% width here and here. So we got a better look. It's starting to look a little nicer here. And so we can apply the same style to our headings. So th nth child 5, comma th nth child 6. So it shouldn't change much because we've already established that these TDs here will be 20% width. And so 3, 2, 1 refresh, there's not much change, but we've at least made the widths of the TH here and the TDs underneath consistent. So that's good there. We can do a little more. So in our example, every other line is blue. So we can do a similar thing with n child for that. So every other row, so these are rows. So TR, we could use nth child again. And then instead of a number, we could put 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We can just tell them even. So every even number row will get a background color blue. Now, if I save this, go back to my example, 3, 2, 1, refresh, and now count the rows. First row, second row, even number, gets blue background. Third row, no background. Fourth row, blue background. So nth child even. So the children of the TR, which is here, gets the blue background. So to finally, I made this caption a little bit bigger in my example, like so. So we can go to caption, because caption is an HTML tag, and we'll call it font size 1.5 M. So 3, 2, 1, refresh. So there's that. And then if you want to give it a little space, we can do padding bottom. Let's do 1M. That'll give us some space in between the bottom of this text and the next line of text. 3, 2, 1. There we go. A little extra room. So it's not all squished together. So that's what you can do with padding or margin. Padding seems to work here. And so that is the way to start building this kind of table. So I can give you the rest of this. You can start filling this in or make your own ranking. I'm curious to see what you all say. So right now, your page is a little bit responsive, like so. But once we get to a certain width, you have to kind of scroll to see it. In order for us to scroll this responsively, we'll have to add one more piece of code. And that one more piece of code, so we'll have to go to the table, wrap that in its own div. So I'll give class here. Let's call it star, right? And then the closing div tag goes here. And then in our HTML, let's sort in our CSS. Let's go down here so there's room. Dot star because we're doing class. Curly bracket. And in order to make this responsive, we can do overflow X scroll. So once we use overflow X scroll, when we shrink this down, we can get this nice scroll bar here. the scroll bar there. So that's as best as we can do for making this responsive. We'll talk about other methods for making this responsive using media queries next few weeks, but this is the main way to do it. So if you like to continue filling in your Star Wars realm ranking, not required, but you can do that. I can give you the text to fill this in. So basically all you're doing is adding more of these rows. So what you can do is copy the entire row stack here and just change the TDs. So that's what I'll do to finish off this table. Three, two, one, refresh. There we go.